All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome into Saturday edition of Black and Gold Breakdown. If you're watching on YouTube, you're not already subscribed, do all that YouTube stuff. If you want to become a Pump Fake Plus member as well for $2.99 a month to get a few extra perks, you can also do that. That would be lovely. But if not, welcome into the channel. Today, talking about Russell Wilson. Bleacher Report, Gary Davenport released his 2024 stat predictions for all 32 starting quarterbacks. So that'll be the main focus today. We'll dive into that a little bit. And of course, open forum as we usually do. Whatever your comments are, we'll get to them, have a nice little conversation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people wanting to talk about, potential receiver targets as today is June 1st. Obviously that's been a big topic of discussion throughout the offseason for the Steelers in terms of, hey, are they going to bring in another receiver? I don't think it's a question on if they will. It's a question on who and when they will. And with June 1st now rolling around, maybe they land a bigger name that we haven't necessarily been talking about, or maybe it's a name we have been talking about that finally comes to fruition. So we'll see what happens on that front. But in terms of the main focus of today, Russell Wilson. He is going to be, 36, 35 right now? Coming off a year in which he threw 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. And his 26 touchdowns last year were more than all three Steelers quarterbacks combined in 2023. And like I said, Gary Davenport of Bleacher Report expects Russ to have a really nice year in terms of his production. And this, comes with, when I say really nice year, the numbers themselves on the surface look good. He's projecting about 3,300 passing yards, which in an Arthur Smith offense makes sense. This is going to be, a run-heavy team. Steelers were a run-heavy team last year. And if you do about 3,300 divided by 17 games, it's a little bit less than 200 yards per game. My guess is it'll be a little bit more than that if he plays all 17 games. I just find it hard to wrap my head around like an offense that's going to, only have 195 passing yards a game consistently, especially one that will win games. So I think the yardage will be a little bit higher. I think he's going to average, I would have to pull up what the actual average was for starters last year. But I think that he can, be a 200, 210 yards per game guy next season. I don't see why he couldn't do that. DB in the chat, the man, the myth himself. Always enjoy seeing you in here, buddy. So if we do the quick math real quick, let's say that, he averages 210 yards passing a game next year. If he does that, then that's about 35, a little bit less than 3,600. I think that's more of a realistic number. And again, we're pulling at straws here. We're, splitting hairs, and these are all projections and predictions and things of that nature. And I get that. But I just don't see, if Russell Wilson is starting all 17 games, that means that he's playing well and they didn't switch to Justin Fields. So I would expect more than 194 passing yards per game. And if he can get, 3,600 passing yards, then that's great. And I do think that that is a very realistic possibility, especially when, it's very likely they'll bring in another receiver. And we'll see who that ends up being. In terms of the touchdowns, Gary Davenport of Bleacher Report projects 27 passing touchdowns for Russell Wilson this season, which is one more than he had a year ago, and would be the most of a Steelers quarterback since Big Ben in 2020 when he threw 33. He's also projecting 10 interceptions, which again, if you only throw 10 interceptions in a 17-game season, protect the ball, completing about 66.5% of his passes, and he also throws in 3 rushing touchdowns. So at age 35, A 30 touchdown campaign for Russell Wilson. If that happens, the Steelers are winning at least 11 games. Like if this all comes to fruition, the Steelers are a playoff team without much of a doubt. And again, I think the yardage will be higher because of, if Russ does play all 17 games, that means that he's playing well. And in today's NFL, I don't care, how heavy of a run team you are. They're not going to run the ball more than 50% of the time. No NFL offense will or has in a very long time. So I do think the passing yardage will be higher. But if he goes 27-10 and completes 67% of his passes with 3 additional touchdowns on the ground, if Russell Wilson goes 30 total touchdowns to 10 picks, that is a giant win for the Steelers, especially if their defense lives up to its potential. That's minimum a 10-win team. That is at minimum replicating the number of wins that they had last season, should he be able to do that. So Gary Davenport of Bleacher Report has high hopes for Russell Wilson this year. And again, in an offense that fits what he does well, which is play action passing, play action deep ball passing, Russell Wilson can have a nice year. I pulled up the numbers before on previous streams, but I can even throw it up again. So this is Russ's numbers last year in terms of certain situations. If you look at deep ball passing, passes of 25 or more air yards, 4th in completions, 3rd in yards, 4th in touchdowns, and then when you throw in play action on passes 20 or more yards downfield, 7th in passer rating in that situation, and the 4th highest catchable pass percentage when his feet were planted and he wasn't running all over the place. So this is these are great projections. If you're a Steelers fan reading that, you absolutely take that. If you get 30 total touchdowns out of Russell Wilson, you take that. How many total touchdowns did the Steelers score last year? Let's play this game real quick. I don't think it was a lot. Pretty sure it wasn't a lot. I'm sure it was more than 30. It had to be more than 30. But they haven't had a quarterback have 30 total touchdowns in a year since Ben in 2020. And so that would be, they haven't seen that in 4 years. So let's see, hold on. How many total touchdowns did the Steelers have last year? The Steelers had, drum roll, more than I thought, apparently. Where are they at? 31. Okay. So they scored 31 total touchdowns last year. Russ is projected to have 30 by himself. They won 10 games a season ago with an offense that scored 31 total touchdowns. This is why I keep coming back. If you're a betting man / woman, and you can find a sports book that still has them sitting at 7.5 wins, bet your mortgage on it. Don't actually do that. Don't bet your mortgage. But if you're a bettor, hey, throw some cash on that. That's usually one of the safer bets every year. Steelers over win total is usually one of the safer bets to make in June. Because we've talked about it before in this show. Every year it's up. This is going to be the year the Steelers fall. Going to be the year the Steelers are bad. And then they end up winning, at least 9 games, are in the playoff hunt, or somehow get into the playoffs. So over 7.5 wins. Go and bet that if you're a bettor. I know I already have. Got a few comments. Riley says, do you think Justin can actually win the starting job? I think he can. I would be surprised if it's not Russ week 1, because Mike Thomas made it pretty clear that Russ, is what he, pole position. And Russ would have to look really bad in camp throughout the offseason, and throughout this entire process, for Mike Tomlin to just completely turn, do a complete 180 and say, you know what, Justin's a starter week 1. And by the way, so far in OTAs, he's looked good. So I think that it'll be Russell Wilson week one. Now, Justin Fields has also looked good, but it's a tie goes to the runner type situation where Russell Wilson has pole position. I expect him to be the starter week one. Now, if he doesn't live up to, whatever expectations are set for him, or if the offense struggles, then yeah, we could see Justin Fields in a starting capacity at some point. But I would be, again, I'm not saying that Justin Fields can't win the job, but it would take Russell Wilson being like very bad and Justin Fields really exceeding expectations. But I do think that we'll see Justin Fields in some capacity this season. So Jared, hope all is good. Russ will cook this year for sure. He seems to be motivated this year. Hey, look, man, he's looked good so far, albeit, in jerseys and shorts, which is cool. He was very, kind enough to give me a minute of his time last week after practice on Thursday. So I like what I see from both guys. And speaking to both of them, they're both motivated. They both have a lot to prove and are still getting acquainted with the offense. It's still only OTAs. They're not in pads yet. So they both have a lot to prove. And I saw some YouTube comments be like, "Oh my goodness, you're anti-Russ." No, I'm absolutely not anti-Russ. I am pro Fields. I am pro Russ. I am pro whatever quarterback is the best quarterback to start games. And I'm rooting for both of them. I hope they both find ways to get used. Even like I said, even if Russell Wilson is the starter, which I think he's going to be, find a way to get Justin Fields on the field for 6 to 10 plays a game. Utilize him as a quarterback, but in more of a, RPO read option type situation where he can run, he can throw, like figure out how to get him on the field. So I hope that they utilize him in some way, shape, or form, even if he's not the starter. Mason and Najee carried the total touchdowns, and Najee had 2 that they chose to slide and kneel it out. Yeah, they are. Again, they scored 31 touchdowns last season as an offense. Russ is projected by Bleacher Report to have 30 by himself in terms of 27 passing and 3 rushing. So I'm fully have all the confidence in the world that they will be better than they were a year ago because they're better almost across the board than they were a year ago. The only place that you can really point out and say, okay, they got worse is receiver. And I would be surprised if we don't see another receiver brought in. So if Russ can put up 27 touchdown passes and 3 rushing, only have 10 picks, and again, I think that the passing yardage will be higher than 3,300. I think it'll be between 36 and 37. But if he can do that, man, that is the Steelers are sitting pretty, especially if the defense lives up to its potential. That's a team that can win 11 games, 12 games. 12 games might be a stretch because, it is a little bit more of a difficult back half of the schedule, but division games late in the year, they can go either way. They've had the Ravens number. I'm not worried about the Ravens as a Steelers fan, at least when they play. Yeah, the Bengals worry me, but it'll be more circumstances that play toward the Steelers' hand because it's going to be late in the year. It could be gross weather where the passing game isn't as effective. The Browns, I think, are worse than they were a year ago late in the year because now they have Deshaun Watson instead of Joe Flacco, who was playing well. Deshaun Watson hasn't played well since pandemic year. So division-wise, schedule-wise, I don't think they're going to beat Kansas City. I think the Jets game will be a difficult one to win. Dallas will be somewhat of a toss-up. But they have a lot of very winnable games on their schedule that they should be able to take advantage of. Don't forget to, I appreciate that, Rob. Yeah, absolutely. Like the video, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Definitely helps out. We are 5 subs away, by the way, from 1,000. The video on Thursday really did numbers. Everybody seemed to really like it. So I appreciate that. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. But we are very, very close to 1,000. I can't even check in live right now. And this is, about a month of work, guys. And I very much appreciate the fact that this has grown so quickly. I really only started doing this consistently around draft time. So we're, about a month and a week in. If that, it's more like a month and 4 days. So to go from not being very good at the YouTube stuff to, growing, gaining like 700 or so subscribers over the past 35-ish days, I appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for making that happen. It truly does mean a lot that you all consistently tune in. I have a few clips from the pump fake over the past few weeks to start uploading as well. So I'll get a little bit of a snippet in from Cowboys conversation with Jess Navarez, a little bit of NFC North stuff with Ben Raven. If you don't want to watch the entire episode, you can just check out the little clips. So I'm going to start throwing those up there too. I've been lacking in that department as of late, but I'm going to get a few more of those up as well. So thank you to everybody who subscribed. We're again 5 away from 1,000. So pretty cool and pretty great progress in a month's time. When does mandatory minicamp start? I want to say June 11th is when they started. I can pull it up real quick just to give you an exact date. Let me look here. Steelers posted on their website to know all the dates and whatnot. Minicamp, yes, June 11th through the 13th is mandatory minicamp. I will be there Wednesday. So the second day of mandatory minicamp, I will be there. And I will be at OTAs, the final day of OTAs, actually. I will be there Thursday. So we'll have one more OTAs show. We'll have a minicamp show. And then once training camp rolls around, don't know how many days I'll be there yet, but I'm going to be there for a select number of days. So keep tuning in, especially for, the after practice stuff. When I talk to players, I can tell you what they told me. I'll do all my write-ups. You can go read it. So I appreciate it. Those are ones that you definitely want to tune in for sure. So see this family. What's going on, Ali? You deserve it, man. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And I appreciate you guys for consistently, tuning in and making this, a very interactive type of thing. Thoughts on a report from Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Steelers getting Debo or Ayuk? Yeah, that was Ray Fittipaldo. I can never say his last name right. The very Italian last name. Yeah, he was on, I think it was Joe Starkey, the radio show, and said that if he had to guess, it'll be Debo or Ayuk from the 49ers that the Steelers will be getting. You guys kind of know my thoughts on that at this point. I would be somewhat surprised if that happened. I think that the 49ers are just going to run it back one more time. And then in 2025, we'll see Debo or Ayuk moved. Because, again, it just doesn't make sense for me, like from my perspective, and if I'm putting myself in the 49ers shoes, it doesn't make sense to move either of them. Not this year. Because next year is when you got to worry about, okay, what are we going to give Brock Purdy? That's when you really got to start be like, okay, we got to pay him. And we got to pay Hafanga. We got to pay some of these defensive guys. And I think that they'll pay Ayuk. My guess is I say that, but at the same time, as good as Ayuk is, he's a better receiver than Debo Samuel. But what Debo Samuel provides for the 49ers offense in terms of that versatility as both a runner and receiver would be harder to replace for the 49ers. If I had to really guess, I would say it's very 50-50. I can't even have a guess for you right now. But one or the other, I think they'll move off of ahead of 2025. But if you're the 49ers, why would you get rid of one of them when you don't have to right now? So if you're the 49ers, look at what you have. Okay, you just extended Juwan Jennings. You got him. You drafted Ricky Pearsall to go along with Debo and Ayuk. You've got 4 legitimate targets plus George Kittle. That's 5. And whenever you put Christian McCaffrey in the slot, you got 6 legitimate weapons on your offense. In today's NFL, you cannot have enough weapons. So why would you move one when it's very clear you're gearing up? Now, the Pearsall pick was very much for the future as well because they're going to move off of Debo or Ayuk. So you get a receiver to, have in place whenever that time does come so you're not scrambling. But if I'm the 49ers, I got no reason to move off them. If anything, I got stronger in the offseason. offensively by bringing in Ricky Pearsall and extending Jawan Jennings. Make one more run at this thing before you got to really start thinking, okay, what are we going to pay Brock Purdy? What are we going to give Hufanga? What are we going to, are we going to bring back Charvarius Ward? Are we going to, what are we going to give to, all these other guys that need paid? So I think that I would be shocked if it ends up being one of the 49ers guys. My opinion since the draft has been it'll either be Courtland Sutton, Darius Slayton, Treylon Burks as like trade targets, and God help us, Michael Thomas as like the absolute last resort. But I would be pretty surprised if it's the 49ers. Any of the 49ers guys, personally. Any truth to Canada not holding guys accountable? I read Smith actually gets involved in practice telling them what he expects. I can't really speak to that. I've never, I wasn't there in person outside of camp to really know how Canada acted towards guys. But I will say this. The offensive guys especially seem really energetic. I said it on Thursday. I think that for a lot of them, it's just rinsing their hands clean of all the dirt. Kenny Pickett's gone. Matt Canada's gone. You ain't got to worry about having a bad quarterback, having a bad offensive coordinator. I think for a lot of them, they're just really rejuvenated because they have an actual NFL offensive mind, an actual NFL offense, and actual NFL quarterbacks to lead them. So I said it in my write-up too. The word that came to mind was energy. Like they were happy to be there. Najee Harris, like they were doing team drills and Najee like broke a run up the sideline. And, like you can hear him laughing and like pointing at Minka, like they're like hand fighting and stuff like that. Pat Freiermuth was really energetic on the sideline during 7 shots. So like the guys just seem really happy to be. Pat's another guy, by the way, who spoke really highly of Arthur Smith in terms of the versatility of the offense, how he uses tight ends and different ways. So I think these guys are just excited for something new and something better. And again, rinsing their hands of all the dirt and having a fresh start. So I can't speak to how they feel about Matt Canada because I haven't asked any of them how they feel about Matt Canada because I don't feel the need to. But from what I do know, they're excited. And as a fan of a team, that's how you want your guys to be. You don't want them coming in every day and being like, oh man, this is going to suck. So excitement is a word and energy is a word that I felt the last 2 times I was at the facility. I want DK just because of the cohesion between he and Russ. I don't really know how much cohesion there is between him and Russ. They haven't played together in now 2 years. I think if you want a guy with cohesion with Russ, you want Courtland Sutton. Now, those two are boys. Those two guys get along really well. They had a good rapport last season. Courtland Sutton had his career high in touchdown receptions last year. He had 10 touchdown catches by himself last year. How many passing touchdowns did the Steelers have last year? Let's take a big fat look at that real quick because I'm sure it wasn't a lot. So, yeah, the Steelers had 13 touchdown passes all of last year. Courtland Sutton and Russell Wilson had 10 between the two of them in terms of being a connection. So if you want a guy that, has really good rapport with Russ, then I think Courtland Sutton's more of the guy in terms of that. Ayuk Steeler jersey is still a goal. I hear you, man. I get it. And I'm sure if and when that happens, when I do the stream for it, when I do the breaking news, Brandon Ayuk's a Steelers show, you'll be the first one to tell me I told you so. And that's fine. I hope that world exists. I hope that's what happens. Because again, if I had my choice, Brandon Ayuk would be the choice. It's just I don't think it's going to happen. Let me pull Rob's comment up real quick. Getting rid of Canada is like finally getting to piss when you're about to piss yourself. That's a good analogy. The best story I have for that, my freshman year in college, me and a bunch of my friends went to Myrtle Beach for spring break. And we were driving. We weren't going through DC, but we were like on the highway. I think it's Route 83, going down through DC or, over DC into down to get to North Carolina. And dude, when I say I had to pee and other things so bad because I had drank, we stopped at Dunkin' and I downed that because it was like 5 in the morning, and I had a 5 hour energy, and they were just having a war in my stomach. And so we finally stopped, and everything that I've ever had just exited my body at once. And it was, yeah, it was it was quite the time. So I assume that's what it felt like getting rid of Matt Canada as well. I'm sure that that was pretty great for the Steelers. Sure, that was pretty great. Can't really look at Smith's time in Atlanta, no quarterback. That's another thing too. Yeah, when you have Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ritter, Taylor Heineke, like yeah, he didn't have anybody worth a piss. So when you, I think looking at Ryan Tannehill and his time with Arthur Smith is more of the best way to look at it. Because remember when Tannehill went to Tennessee, he was pretty much written off. It was basically a cast off. The Dolphins didn't want him. They got rid of him. He was there to back up Marcus Mariota. And once it was shown, okay, Marcus Mariota's not good. Let's see what Ryan Tannehill can do. Yeah, 2 terrific seasons under Arthur Smith. So I think that that's more of the better comparison than, yeah, Ritter or Mariota or Heineke is more of the Ryan Tannehill comparison. Sutton, I don't hate either. Yeah, we'll have to see what comes of it in terms of if the Broncos are willing to give him a new deal. And I'm, like I said, I'm keeping my ear very close to that situation. I'm trying to be the one who breaks whatever happens with that. So whenever something does happen, I will know, and I will do my very best to get it out before anyone else. I want that so bad. I'm not like in this for like the insider stuff. That was never my goal. But, having, the ability to have information is pretty neat. So hopefully I can be the one that does, like I said, I'm working very hard on it, and I'm trying to make sure that I, get it out whenever something does happen. How's it going, Asher? Good to see you. Metcalf over Ayuk any day of the week. Strongly disagree there, my friend. Brandon Ayuk's very good. Not to say that DK Metcalf isn't good, but Brandon Ayuk is more of a legitimate number one guy who great route runner, great separator. DK Metcalf, I think, does a lot of the similar stuff that Pickens does. But Brandon Ayuk is a more well-rounded receiver. I think Arthur Smith overachieved in Atlanta. Quarterbacks were hot garbage. His team was competitive each week. Yeah, I mean, there was a time where 2022, I mean, they were in the thick of a playoff hunt with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. They were like 6-6. Defense was, doing well enough. Last year, their defense was very solid. Now, granted, they were playing the NFC South 6 times a year, so I'm sure that helped. But yeah, I think that with Arthur Smith, kind of got scapegoated a little bit. Now, there were some things that he did play call-wise where he just overthought things. That's where you get the, okay, why aren't you using Bijan Robinson more? I think that a lot of times he was thinking, okay, they're going to look for Bijan Robinson, so if I hit him with, Tyler Algier or Jonnu Smith, they'll never see it coming. So I think that he just overthought things a little bit, and I'd like to think that he's learned from that. I'll see you soon during your Ayuk trade reaction stream. It'll be legendary. Yeah, look, I would be very happy if there is one. I just don't think there will be, but fingers crossed that there is. Rob says, I live between Charlotte and Myrtle Beach. Pretty much, it's a pretty easy place. I shouldn't say easy because it's still it's a long drive. I don't want to ever do the drive again because I'm just overdoing 8-hour road trips. So I'll fly whenever I do it next. But no, that's my sisters. Two older sisters live in the Carolinas, so we go there each year. DK would be awesome. I'd be insanely happy with that, but Ayuk is the prize and best fit in my opinion. I respect you. Yeah, I mean, if they get DK Metcalf, I don't think anybody's going to be shaking their fists at it. Like, he's good. I just think Ayuk's, comfortably better. But again, if they get DK Metcalf, If you're upgrading to DK Metcalf over Van Jefferson, respectfully speaking to Van Jefferson, that's definitely nothing to be too upset about. And by the way, if you're joining the stream late, the topic to kick off the show and kind of get things going was Russell Wilson and his projections from Bleacher Report. Gary Davenport at Bleacher Report doing his projections for all 32 starting quarterbacks. And his projections for Russ, I mean, if they come true, then the Steelers are in a very good spot. His projections, about 3,300 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Again, that's Gary Davenport of Bleacher Report. So if Russell Wilson gets 30 touchdowns, or is responsible for 30 touchdowns, when the Steelers' offense as a whole last year had 31 touchdowns, they're in a good spot. And just for comparison, if anybody was wondering, okay, well, what did, good offenses look like in terms of total touchdowns that they had? Let me get that pulled up real quick just to see like the top 5-ish group of touchdowns. So like I said, the Steelers last year had 31 total touchdowns. The Dolphins and 49ers led the way with 61. The Lions had 58. The Cowboys had 57. Baltimore had 55. And Buffalo had 54. So more than, if you look at the 49ers and the Dolphins, they basically doubled the number of touchdowns that the Steelers scored. And in terms of the yardage, I'm gonna say there's gonna be more passing yards because again, if Russell Wilson is starting all 17 games in this situation, he's gonna be throwing for more than 190 yards per game. I think that he can comfortably get at least 200 to 210. And again, if we take 210 times 17 to give us a number, it's about 3,570, so 3,570 yards. I think, right around that 3,600, 3,700 mark is probably a little bit more realistic. If Russell Wilson's starting 17 games and throwing 27 touchdowns, I think that you got to up the yardage a little bit. I don't think he's going to be a 4,000-yard passer, but I think a 36 to 3,700 is a fine, realistic goal or realistic outlook. And again, if Russell Wilson gives them 30 total touchdowns, and you also account for Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren out of the backfield. And just like, let's look at other teams that were in terms of total touchdowns. Like the Rams had 44 last year, and that was with Matthew Stafford. I think he missed a game. But if they can get, between what the Rams and Eagles did. So the Eagles had 49. The Rams and also the Saints. When we think about how bad the Saints were, they had 44 touchdowns last year. They have the same number of touchdowns as the Packers did. So if they can get between 44 and 49 scores, that is a hell of a lot better than where they were a season ago with 31. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what that brings. And I know that a lot of the conversation has been around, oh man, they do need a number 2 receiver. They do. But the offense is already marginally better because of the changes that they've made. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Russ does. Looking forward to seeing how they utilize Justin Fields as well. Get to a few more of these comments. Ramon, I'll take the over on the yards and touchdowns. He'll throw at least 35. That's look, man. The NFL leader last year was Dak Prescott. And he threw 36. We can be, excited, but let's also be a little bit realistic here. I don't think we're going to see any of the Steelers quarterbacks throw for 35 or 40. That would be quite the feat. Love the enthusiasm. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think you can throw for 250 a game. Again, that's a lot. Especially with, where they play. If they played in a dome, maybe I could, even then, I still wouldn't think it would be 250, but especially with where they play, it's going to be a lot of wet, gross games late in the year. I think right around that 36, 3,700 mark is fine. I certainly don't see 35 passing touchdowns. I think that if he can get around that 26, 27, great. But I certainly don't see 40. Steelers do not get a wide receiver 2. George Pickens gets hurt. That would spell. Yeah, that would be a problem. But again, I'm not worried about the wide receiver 2 stuff because I just they're gonna get one. I'm at the point where I'm like, I know they're gonna get one. It's just a matter of who. Obviously, like I have my selection of who I'd want in what order. Like if I had to go in order right now, I've done this a few times, but it's been like a month. So like Ayuk is, the crown jewel. You could probably put, I don't know who I put to. I guess Debo at 2, but he costs a lot of money. And he still wouldn't necessarily solve what they need on the outside because even that, he's not a good separator. So I would probably go Ayuk, Cortland Sutton, DK, Debo. And then, if you go into like a Darius Slayton territory, Treylon Burks, Michael Thomas is at the very bottom. I don't want Michael Thomas to be a Steeler, man. He's just not good. And he's never healthy. It's the best wide receivers yard gain under Arthur Smith. I think A.J. Brown. Let me look at A.J. Brown's best season because it's definitely A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown in 2020, I believe, led the NFL in catches of north of 40 yards. That was the year where because Derrick Henry, I think, had 2,000 yards rushing that year. So they just leaned into play action, gave him like 3 to 4 shots per game. And if he caught 1 or 2 of them, then that was, their splash play. That's what they really lived and died on. So his best year under Arthur Smith was, it was 2020. He caught 70 passes for 1,075 yards and 11 touchdowns. So, he was pretty good that year. And that was in a, more run-heavy offense than he is in Philadelphia. So, you see 70 catches, that's not all that much. Well, when you look at the volume in which they were throwing, he was very much the top target. You don't see 35 touchdowns, but my projections on Russ have almost always been correct. Throw for at least, hey man, if he does that, we can make a bet on it. If Russ throws for 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something. Because respectfully, I very much don't see that taking place. Ayuk would be 1 and GP would be absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Ayuk is very much better than George Pickens. And again, as a true number 1, George Pickens hasn't proven to be a true number 1 yet. And there are things that he has to get better at, that he's been working to get better at, but he still has to prove that he can be a true number 1. And it's great that he can catch 50-50 balls, and it's great that he can get a lot of yak, but there's a lot more to being a true 1 receiver than that. You got to be able to be, have a deep route tree, be able to separate, win in the intermediate portion of the field. Now, a lot of that is the Steelers haven't had to ask him to do that because they had Deontay Johnson. Well, now he's going to have to do that. Early, he's been working with Route God. He got better at doing that late in the year. And look, he was, reliable when Deontay Johnson wasn't playing. But there's things that he needs to get better at in order to be looked at as a number 1. You have to buy him an Ayuk jersey if you lose. Yeah, I don't know what I'll do. I mean, look, I'll be happy if I lose that bet. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think that's going to happen. I had to eat a shirt last year or 2 years ago. Was it last year? That was a lot. I didn't eat an entire shirt because that could really mess up your insides, I guess. But I cut up little pieces of it, dipped it in jelly. Because I lost a 49ers bet. Oh, it would have been the year Chiefs Eagles, so it would have been the season prior to last. So 2022-23. Yeah, Brock Purdy did that to me. Would George be happy with them stats, AJ? Yes. If he's not, then that's crazy. 70 catches for over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. If he's not, then that sounds like a him problem. Sounds like a him problem. That's fine. especially in an offense that's going to be literally the exact same offense that AJ Brown was in. Like if he's able to have AJ Brown production, that's great. That's great. I know versus makeup, he's coming for every hater this year. Hey, look, I'm sure he is. I think that we've kind of seen his peak. I don't think we're going to get back to 40 touchdown Russ like he was in 2020, I believe is when he did that, when he's an MVP candidate. So again, I'd love to see it. I just don't think that we're gonna. I think that we'll see Russ as a, perfectly good starting quarterback. Not great, not bad by any means, just, kind of right down the middle. Can make some throws when you need him to. Don't make him do everything, which the offense isn't going to. If he's the 18th best quarterback in football, the Steelers are sitting pretty. And the same can be said for Justin Fields, by the way, if and when we see him. But even if the Bleacher Report predictions come true, that's a big win. Big win. And again, I would agree that the yardage is going to be higher. I think he's going to throw for more than 190 yards per game. I think he'll be right around the, 210, 215 range. If it's between 200 and 215 a game, great. Great. I mean, hell, remember last year when they finally eclipsed 400 yards as a team, everybody practically threw a party because they hadn't done it in so long. Oh, all right. Nice little water break there. All right, we'll stay on for 5 or so more minutes, 5 to 10 more minutes, and then we'll get on out of here for the day, and then we'll be back Monday. But yeah, any other comments, questions you want to throw in there? It can be Steelers related, it can be NFL related. Just toss them in. Just keep doing this open forum portion of the show before we call it a day. And again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. All the new subscribers who are here, thank you so much. I gotta keep refreshing. We're 3 away now from 1,000, so I'm going to be paying close attention to that over the next couple days. Or maybe, maybe we pass it today. Who knows? But I do appreciate every one of you new subscribers for coming in. It means a lot to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And, once we get, well, I should say this. If you want to become a Pump Fake Plus member, it's $2.99 a month. It gives you certain privileges. So when I have, shows, whether it's this show, the Pump Fake, and I do it with other media members, which I usually do, you can submit questions to have asked to the media members. When I have players on, you could do the exact same thing. Whatever questions you want asked to the players, I'll make sure to announce shows in the community tab beforehand. So if you are a Pump Fake Plus member, you can get your questions submitted. So again, it's $2.99 a month. That's as cheap as I can make it. If that's something that you're interested in, that would be great. If you're not, don't worry about it. Not a requirement by any means. But if you want to find, another way to keep supporting me, that is one way to do it. I think our tight ends and running backs will be factored into our passing game and make wide receiver 2 obsolete. I don't think wide receiver 2 will be obsolete, but I do think that Pat Freiermuth is going to be like the second or third on the team in catches. Like last year, Kyle Pitts was second on the Falcons in catches. So I think that it could be similar to that where, George Pickens kind of plays the Drake London role. Freiermuth is the Kyle Pitts role. But after that, the Falcons didn't really have a reliable receiver. So the Steelers need to find that other receiver to be that third target. Well, Roman Wilson could be that type of player. But if they don't want to put too much on his plate as a rookie and have, if they bring in one of those aforementioned names to be the second target while Freiermuth is the third and Roman Wilson's the fourth, then you've got 4 really solid targets plus Jaylen Warren out of the backfield, plus however much you utilize Darnell Washington. And then you've got a nice quality, core of depth pieces in Jefferson, Calvin Austin, and maybe Scotty Miller. So again, getting one more like good name receiver would do a ton for the offense. So hopefully that happens sooner than later. And again, it's June 1st. I know a lot of people were circling today as the day that oh, maybe they trade for DK Metcalf today. It's June 1st. I know a lot of people were paying attention to that. Just because nothing has happened today doesn't mean that nothing will. Again, keep your eyes peeled. Maybe turn on Schefter's notifications just to see if anything happens. But something will happen around the league in the next couple of days. It's just a matter of what and who does it. And then once that happens, then I think that'll give us a clearer picture of what Pittsburgh does if they aren't the team to make a move. Hell, I'm just refreshing Twitter right now to see if anything happened in the 45 minutes we've been doing this. But nothing yet. Nothing yet. So we'll see. Oh, thank you, Concepts. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, 3 away from 1,000 subs. And again, about a month ago during draft time when I started doing this daily and really making this a focal point of what I wanted to do content-wise. I mean, we've grown from, I think I had 300 subs or something when I started doing this. Now we're almost at 1,000. So I do greatly appreciate all the support. It means a lot. And as this keeps growing, I'll try to think of more perks and whatnot. Once we start getting guys on, there's, I've talked about having a few things in the works just around this time of year when, some teams OTAs are wrapping up, some are still in the middle. Like it's hard to kind of coordinate schedules, but things are in the works. So, I want to get that stuff done just to, incentivize you guys, I guess, in order to be like, oh, okay, yeah, he, does do this, and it'd be cool to, ask this player questions and whatnot. But in terms of like all my media friends, yeah, there's going to be plenty of shows with, Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated, Mike Tanier, Doug Farrar, Aaron Schatz. So I love Aaron Schatz because he was the one MVP voter last year who voted for Josh Allen, and everybody in Baltimore got mad at him. So I love Aaron Schatz. We had dinner at the combine, and I took a selfie of him and I posted it, and I said just two dudes who love Josh Allen. So try to get Aaron Schatz on again soon because I love Schatz. He's great. So whenever I get guys like that on, and again, usually it's on the pump fake where each week I'll be doing something with somebody. I try to do one show a week for that show during the off season. And if you're a Pump Fake Plus member, you can submit your questions to be asked. This Monday, we're doing the AFC North preview show, so you'll kind of get a double dip of Steelers stuff. And like I said, I'm penciling in. I asked Kevin Ostriker of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostriker, great guy, by the way. I love talking ball with him. So that's what we're aiming for is Monday to do it. I'm going to follow up with him. And then once it's, signed, sealed, and delivered, then I'll put it in the community tab of when we'll do it. Tuesday, Mike Golick Jr. will be hopping on the pump fake with me as well. So that'll be a fun show to tune in for. Love Mike. Yeah, if you watch Gojo and Golick on DraftKings, love Mike. He's awesome. So he'll be on the pump fake with me Tuesday. So again, if you're a Pump Fake Plus member, you want to ask Mike Golick Jr. something, you can do that, but you got to be a member. So again, just stuff like that's really, push more content to you guys and show my, appreciation. And if you want to, support me, that is one way to do it. But I do appreciate the hell out of all of you. Josh Allen clearly got robbed of MVP. I agree. Josh Allen's my favorite player, by the way. I don't know if I've said that on this show before, but I do love, Josh Allen's my favorite player. I love Josh Allen. He's great. And Doug Farrar, my boss at USA Today, did a podcast type thing with him where they watched film together, and he did it like 3 days ago. Didn't think to invite me. Will I ever forgive Doug? I don't know. We'll find out. I posted that on Twitter yesterday. I was like, I would have loved to be there. Obviously very lighthearted. And if you haven't read that, by the way, go and read and watch Doug's stuff with Josh Allen on USA Today. It's very good. X also says, I think Smith usually carries 5 tight ends. And if they carry, I don't think they'll carry 5. I think they'll carry 4. I think that it'll be Freiermuth, Washington, Pruitt, and Hayward as the 4 tight ends they carry. And then Rodney Williams will be the practice squad guy who gets called up if something happens. No, hell, you know what? Rodney Williams made, I don't know how many games he played in last year, but he was the one when the punt was blocked against Baltimore who almost recovered it for a touchdown. He's a solid special teams player. So hell, who knows? Maybe he does. Maybe they do carry 5. I'm not going to rule anything out in terms of what the hell they do offensively. I already, clicked on that one. Rob says, I tune into some of the same podcasts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm starting to notice that the Steelers YouTube community does feature a lot of similar faces. So I do appreciate all of you guys, supporting and watching me. I do appreciate it. I think this is a good place to call it. So we'll be back Monday. What we'll talk about, not sure. We'll see. Time will tell. We'll see what happens over the weekend. Maybe something big will happen. Maybe something will happen tonight. You never know, especially post June 1st. So I hope something comes to fruition. And I'm going to start putting together that favorite Steelers show because that is very fun, like a very fun idea. So I'm going to talk to Nick Farabaugh. I'm going to talk to Derek, see if he would want to do it. Talk to Zach Smith. We'll make it a big thing. It'll be fun. And then we'll make it like interactive where like me and DB can stream it simultaneously on both of our channels. I haven't told him about this yet. So, I mean, if he sees this, this is probably news to him, but I'm going to pitch it to him. So that'll happen in the next few weeks, I would say. Because that does sound like something that would be very fun to do. But if you're not already subscribed, please do so. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Do all that YouTube stuff and like the video. Tell your friends about it. Tell them to subscribe. Do all that good stuff. But yes, I will be back Monday. Thanks as always, guys, for tuning into Black and Gold Breakdown. Tune in. You'll get a double dip of me Monday. Again, it's the Pump Fake, which will be the AFC North preview show. So it's basically 2 Steelers shows in one almost. And then Black and Gold Breakdown that evening. So a double dip of me on Monday. Subscribe to the channel. Do all that good stuff. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. See you in a couple days.